So let's talk about ESG ratings, environmental, social, and governance. We're going to pull back the curtain on why these scores have become such a big deal for companies, and more importantly, how the whole system actually works. Ready? Let's dive in. Okay, so picture this scene. It's happening in boardrooms all over the world. An ESG rating lands, and it's not great. It's lower than everyone expected. Suddenly, investors are on the phone, the cost of capital might go up, and the company's reputation is on the line. It's a high-stakes moment, and it leaves leaders scrambling for answers. Yeah, for most people, this whole rating process feels like a total black box, right? But the truth is, it's not magic. These ratings are built on structured systems and very specific rules. The key isn't to guess what's inside the box, it's to understand its architecture. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. All right, so let's crack open this box and see what's actually going on inside the ESG rating ecosystem. Okay, first things first, we've got to bust the single biggest myth out there. There is no such thing as an ESG score. You can literally get an A from one rating agency and a C from another for the exact same company. And get this, both scores could be totally valid. That's because they're each measuring different things through a different lens. So, why the huge difference? Well, it boils down to a few key things. Some agencies are looking at ESG from an investor's point of view, like how do these issues create financial risk for the company? Others are asking a totally different question. What is the company's impact on society? Those are two very different philosophies. Add in the fact that agencies have to estimate data when companies don't disclose it. They're constantly scanning for scandals, and they all use different formulas to weigh what's important. And yeah, the scores can end up all over the map. But here's the thing. Even with all those differences, most of the big rating systems are built on the same basic foundation. It's a 3-layer architecture. And if you can understand this structure, you can navigate the whole system. Let's break it down. So layer 1 is all about a concept called materiality, and you really need to get this one. In simple terms, it's all about identifying which specific ESG issues have a real, tangible financial impact on a particular industry. We're not talking about just general doing good stuff. We're talking about what actually hits the bottom line. And this example just makes it crystal clear. Think about it. For a mining company, of course, things like their environmental impact and how they manage water, that's huge. It's a direct financial risk. But for a software company, the readers are focused on completely different things, like how well they protect customer data or manage their talented employees. Spending a ton of effort on an issue that isn't material for your industry, it probably won't move your score much at all. Okay, so once those material issues are locked in, we move to layer 2, picking the right indicators. And look, the agencies aren't looking for feel-good stories here. They want hard, cold data. They're looking for specific, measurable proof points, like your carbon intensity, your employee turnover rate, or how independent your board of directors is. This is where your public reports and disclosures become absolutely critical. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, layer 3, weighting and aggregation. This is where the agency decides that not everything is equally important. They apply their own model to weigh each piece of data based on how financially significant they think it is. So for a big manufacturer, their carbon emissions data is going to count for a lot more than, say, their local volunteer programs. Then they add it all up, and this is key, they'll adjust the score downwards if you've had a recent public controversy, like a big data breach or an environmental fine. All right, we've got the basic blueprint down, but now let's talk about the real hidden driver of these scores. And trust me, it's probably not what you think. So what's the one thing that trips up most companies? Well, they pour tons of effort into improving their actual performance, trying to be a better company. But in doing that, they often miss the single most important factor in how they're actually scored. It's not just about what you do, it's about how well you talk about what you do. It's transparency. The quality and clarity of your disclosures can be just as important, sometimes even more important, than your actual performance, because at the end of the day, the raters can only score what they can see and verify. And this is so important. See, if you leave a blank space where data should be, the agencies don't just give you a pass. Nope, they fill in that gap themselves, usually with a pretty conservative and often unflattering estimate, and your score gets dinged. In the ESG world, staying silent is almost never a good move. Okay, so if transparency is the key, how do you actually play the game to win? Let's get into the strategic playbook and look at the 5 big levers that really move the needle on your score. Look, you could chase 100 different things, but a smart strategy focuses on just these 5 high-impact areas. This is where you get the most bang for your buck. First up, laser focus on reducing the risks that are actually material to your industry. Don't waste time on anything else. Number 2, formalize your governance. This means getting board oversight and even linking executive pay to ESG goals. It proves this stuff is taken seriously. Third, set real, number-based targets. We're going to cut emissions by 30% by 2030 is way more powerful than we care about the planet. Fourth, get your data verified by an outsider. This builds trust and shows the raters they don't have to guess. And finally, number 5, have a plan for when things go wrong. Raters look at not just if a crisis happens, but how fast and how transparently you respond to it. When you put all of this together, you start to see that it's about a bigger shift in mindset. It's about moving from just reacting to a score to proactively building a better system. And maybe this is the biggest mindset shift of all. ESG ratings are not a report card on whether you're a good or bad company. Think of them as risk translators. They take all this complex environmental, social, and governance stuff and turn it into a language that investors and markets understand, the language of financial risk. And once you start thinking in terms of risk, you can avoid some really common and expensive mistakes. Like, don't pour money into flashy initiatives that aren't actually material to your business. Don't just publish vague stories without any hard data to back them up. And definitely don't treat this like a simple marketing campaign. The raters are sophisticated. They'll see right through it. You know, the companies that are really winning at this have figured this out. They've stopped seeing ESG as this annoying homework assignment they have to turn in every year. Instead, they're using the whole rating framework as a kind of strategic X-ray. It helps them see hidden risks in their operations and even spot new opportunities for growth. So let's just boil it all down. The winning playbook looks like this. You've got to understand how you're being graded. You have to own your story and back it up with solid data. You need to align your governance so everyone's accountable. You relentlessly attack your material risks. And finally, you communicate all of this with precision. So I'll leave you with this one question to think about for your own organization. Are you treating ESG like a compliance chore, something to just check off a list? Or are you using it for what it really is, a core intelligence system to build a stronger, more resilient business? Honestly, the way you answer that question could very well determine where your company is headed.